This week on Driven, we're breaking the bank. Well, breaking into the piggy bank as we test 3 little tax busters in the Driven 100.
At the beginning of the series, we challenged 3 people to live with an LPG car for 2 weeks, but will they be converted?
And Penny takes the hot hatch that thinks it's an off-roader, Toyota's new RAV4, for a spin in the countryside. As the cost of motoring goes through the roof, this bunch of tiddlers may offer an affordable solution. With 1-litre engines, they qualify for the £55 reduction in road tax, introduced to get us out of our gas guzzlers. Cheap to buy and cheap to insure, but are they just cheap and cheerful? Or do they offer some good value for money? Let's find out.
So let's start with the Citroën Saxo first. We're not talking latest model though. This is the facelifted version of a car which hit the streets 4 years ago.
Oh, stop whinging, Plato. You racing drivers are far too spoilt. It's basic because it's a no-frills economy car, but at least you get 5 gears to play with.
And the interior, well, it's a bit of a sea of black to be honest, but on the positive side, you do get a rev counter, you do get an airbag, you do get a radio with RDS. It's very legible. It tells you everything you need to know.
Rather than the Citroën Saxo, which is just a stripped-out Super Mini, the Hyundai Amica has no ideas above its station. This car, from the outset, was designed to be a piddly car with a weeny little engine. In fact, for £7,795, all it puts out is 55 brake horsepower, which isn't going to set your world on fire, but you do get a few more gadgets and gizmos. Power steering, electric windows, air conditioning, and nice alloy wheels. So at the end of the day, the Amica is a car that does exactly what it says on the tin. It's cheap to run, easy to maintain, and it serves its purpose.
Yes, but I have the badge. This is the Volkswagen Lupo 1-litre E, and it's right at the bottom of the Volkswagen ladder at just £7,840. But that's still £2,000 more than the Saxo. This is Volkswagen meets Teletubby. It's all very cutesy in here. The rev counter, which is standard, and the speedo are set in these 2 pretty cute little pods on the dash, which is very nice, and the interior build quality is just the same as you'd expect from any Volkswagen. It's much, much better than the other 2. Coming as standard, you've got rear seats that split and fold down, a radio cassette with 4 speakers, a rear wash wipe, and twin airbags. Now, a Sinclair C5 could give this lot a run for their money when it comes to performance, but they're designed for hard city living, so you should still be able to chuck them about a bit. Time to head to the track.
So, to our first test in the Driven 100, and you join us for what promises to be an exciting test session down at this fast, well, go-kart-sized test track where Plato's out there at the moment on a hot lap in one of those highly manoeuvrable and very nippy go-karts. But just how well will our 3 group test cars handle this tight and twisty circuit? Well, I'm going to be driving to find out as soon as I can get my passenger to join me. Oi! Slow down, you nutter! Glad to see you're ready now, Mr. Plato. First up is the Citroën Saxo first. Now, this car we're going to be testing out for manoeuvrability, drivability, and just handling. I mean, if you're going to buy one of these, you're going to want to fly it around. You're going to want to fly it around town, aren't you, dear boy?
I do think, Mike, you're maybe overestimating your ability.
No, definitely not. I mean, this is just... Funny enough, out the 3 cars, this is the only one we know hasn't got power steering. And that actually helps, you know, because the steering's really communicative. Yeah, it loads up nicely into the corners. You can feel what it's doing. And, oh, mate, I'll tell you, I'm having great fun. I mean, you're never going to take a car like this to a go-kart track and throw it around for real, but they are meant to be manoeuvrable cars.
I'll tell you what, this is a pretty extreme test, but it does demonstrate how good these cars are in and out of tight traffic situations. They're meant for buzzing around town. The Saxo's fared really well. Next up, we've got the Hyundai Amica.
Right, so the Saxo had a great chassis. This is tall-sided. I'm a little bit nervous about having to go in this one. Into the first corner, second gear.
Oh my God, we're going over.
Let me
go over near you.
Lean will go over.
Get over this side. I Tell you
Oh,
what, it's a bit roly-poly, isn't
It
it?
feels so unwieldy. One thing that I noticed about almost immediately is this car has got power steering, and it just takes away all that steering feel that I seem to find in the Saxo. This has got the biggest brake horsepower of the three, 55 bhp, and you can really feel it. I'm in second gear, and it's much punchier out the corners than that little Saxo. But if only you could keep the traction down, because the wheels just keep
Nowhere near
spinning.
enough grip, is there?
Nowhere near. So far, the Saxo's just nosing ahead for me. Let's give the Lupo a try.
Yeah.
Right then, last up, Jason, is the VW Lupo. And one thing that I've noticed, not only can I height adjust the seat and the steering wheel, I can also get into a proper little
smart
driving position. Right, you ready? Not as much wheel spin as the other two. Right, into the first corner.
What, tell you what, it's quite
I
punchy.
tell you what, look at that. Oh, mate, this feels like a go-kart, this car. Tons of understeer, exactly what you'd expect.
But it turns in well, though, eh?
It turns in really well because it's such a short wheelbase, this car.
Either you've learned to drive, or the car's better. Which is it to be?
The car's better. No, sorry, I've learned to drive. Brakes are good, non-ABS again, but they're very good. In fact, this car has got power steering, and it feels on a par with that Saxo without power steering. You can feel it, it communicates to you as you're coming in and out of corners. It's great, isn't it?
It does feel very, very good.
To the grid then, and in third place, the unchuckable Amica. Second slot goes to the Citroen Saxo, and in a solid first, the VW Lupo. When it's an off-roader, not an off-roader. When it's a RAV4. Next, Penny goes wild in the country with Toyota's latest recreational offering.
Imagine you're in the wild, rugged landscape of the Serengeti. You'll need a modern 4x4 car that's reliable and robust enough to keep you out of harm's way. OK, so we're not really on safari. Who are we trying to kid? And this isn't really an off-roader. Who's Toyota trying to kid? This is more like a GTI, and if you were to get stuck in the back of Beyond in this thing, you've had it. This is the new Toyota RAV4, or Recreational Active Vehicle. Oh yeah, and here's some gratuitous shots of wild animals, just to continue the safari theme. The RAV4 first appeared in 1994 to challenge the youthful off-roader sector. Although it may look like a 4x4, it's not really. As soon as you tackle some loose gravel or long grass, it becomes uncertain. That's not why people buy a RAV4. The original had a reputation as a hot hatch. So what does the updated model have to offer? Toyota claim better performance, more economy and lower emissions. The improved economy comes from the new 2-litre variable valve timing engine. It gets to 62 in about 10.6 seconds. That's kind of average GTI pace, and its top speed is 115 miles per hour. Like the old car, the RAV4 is available in 3- and 5-door forms, but this time there's no soft top option. However, there is a front-wheel drive variant. I wonder if they'll call that the RAV2. Anyway, the makeover means that the RAV has been given the Toyota family facial with new headlamps, radiator grille and deeper front bumper. Inside, well, my seating position is great. The seat is surprisingly comfy, but what I really like is the 3 dials in front of me here. I've got a rev counter right in front of me, just like a racing car. It looks really nice. The gear change is nice and crisp, although I think the gear stick's about an inch too long. The steering wheel this time is leather covered rather than plastic from the old model. The engine, the new 2-litre engine, pulls brilliantly through the whole rev range, is nice and quiet on the motorway. All in all, this car is very able. I did not expect to like it one tiny little bit, but I do. There have been several instances of high-sided vehicles tipping over, and I personally always feel really uneasy on the motorway in a high-sided vehicle. So what we're going to do here is have a simulated motorway. I'm going to drive at 70 miles an hour and make a very sharp lane change manoeuvre, and that will unbalance the car and shift the weight, and we'll just see how well it handles. Now, Toyota say that they have improved the handling of the RAV4, and we'll just have to see how much. So there we go, 60 miles an hour. And here's the lane change. Oh, it just lurches. It feels really uncomfortable. I certainly wouldn't like to do it any faster than that, although I have to say it does feel safer than a lot I've sat in. Let's face it, the RAV4 is pretty capable on the road, certainly better than its predecessor. And although it looks like the genuine article, don't even think about taking it off the road. Just keep it to your local safari park and your gravel drive. If you want to know more about our featured cars or see highlights from the Paris Motor Show, then log on to 4car.co.uk.
After the break, the first spy shots of the new Jeep Cherokee, and we'll be catching up with our LPG guinea pigs.
First, a sneak preview of the new Urban Cowboy.
The Jeep Cherokee. Us Brits love it, but the old-timer hasn't had a facelift in 17 years. Until now, that is, and Driven's nabbed the new model. Hot weather testing in the States. It isn't due here until at least next year, so these test models have been taped up. Our sources tell us that there's almost certainly a V6 engine to replace the old Chrysler straight six. Expect a lot of Mercedes input because the brand's now part of the Daimler Chrysler group. Be afraid, Land Rover. Be very afraid.
Welcome back to the Driven 100, and it's time for the parking test. We're going to try and get these three tiny cars into that tiny gap, which is exactly what they're designed to do. However, one of us has got to wear this high-tech, yet particularly foolish piece of equipment. Haven't we, Mike?
Yes, Penny.
No,
Penny.
not me again.
Your turn.
Take the cam.
It's a conspiracy. But with a camera attached to my head, at least you'll get to see my point of view. Right, first up, it's the Citroën Saxo first. Now, this car is at least 6 inches longer than the other two, and it's the only one that comes without power steering, so this should be the hardest of the three. And if you could just stop laughing at the way I look, because I'm embarrassed enough as it is. Well, visibility, if it wasn't for Jason's great big nose, is quite good out the back.
Penny, you've got 18 inches. You've got 9 at the front and 9 at the back, so it's going to be a really tight space.
Or 18 inches.
Come on, girl, in you
Girl's
go.
18 inches, but there's a great big C-pillar which doesn't help. Now the steering obviously is really heavy.
Come on.
How am I doing?
You're not doing bad. What is it lock to lock on this car?
It's about 4 turns lock to lock.
Go on, Pen. Go on, round you go.
Now,
Come on.
It's just so heavy.
She's
Now,
like a Russian shot putter, look.
If,
Oh, no, you've got to go forward, Ben.
Bang goes my car.
if you want power steering, you've got to go up to the next model, which is an extra 1,800 quid.
I would have rather spent the money, Pen,
I'd have
rather than
paid
see
for
you
it.
suffer.
Well, we're in. I'm a bit exhausted. Lucky I've been to the gym. Look at the size of the biceps. Visibility's not bad, I have to say. I did use the mirrors a little bit. Big
Which
sheets
is
of
nice.
glass all round, which is nice. So I'm just a bit tired now.
Next up, it's the Amica.
Now this immediately feels better because it's a higher driving position and power steering, thank goodness. Now I'm going to try and reverse back.
What about these, Pen? These big headrests? Can you
Can't
not
see a
them?
thing. Can't see a
Mind you, the
thing.
rear window's level with the bumper, so
Yeah,
if
I've
you
got a
kind of
good
judge
view
that.
of the car behind, but not the corners.
Don't clip anything, Penny.
I'm gonna
Come
try
on,
not
girl.
to.
In you go.
Visibility out the front actually is excellent. Now look, one hand on the steering wheel.
One hand on the steering wheel, and it's only 3 turns lock to lock, which is much better than the
Yeah,
Saxo.
with
That
4
was
in the
4.
Saxo.
Oh,
Now,
you got bags
nice
of room in
and
the back.
easy.
Bags of room.
Very easy compared to the Citroën, isn't it?
All right, that's a doddle.
It is a doddle.
Actually, fantastic. Really nice, except the rear visibility on corners is very hard. Out the back, straight out the back, it's not too bad. Big wing mirrors. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, last up, it's the Volkswagen Lupo, and already it feels like a completely different class. I've got height adjustable steering wheel and seats, so I can get just the right position. And
Nice.
as I start to go
Forward,
back,
Pen. What's rear vis like, Pen, with these big C-pillars?
you know what? It's just like the Amica. It's not brilliant, but because the steering's so light and it's
It's
just so
easier.
nice and easy
Come
to
on,
drive.
Pen, nice and easy.
Go on, you got
I think
loads
you're
of
going to
room
get
in
in
the
here
back.
in one, you know. Go on.
Well,
Loads of room, Penny.
It's so much shorter, this car.
never let it be said that a woman can't park.
And look at that, it's only got 3 turns lock to lock,
Yep.
comparable with the Amica.
That was
you're in
absolutely
Doddle.
doddle, wasn't it?
And the result, in third with its bicep-building steering, it's the Saxo. We love the Lupo's power steering, but the taller Amica wins it with better visibility.
At the beginning of the series, we lent some willing volunteers cars that run on LPG. Let's see how they got on. We've been banging on about the merits of LPG since the beginning of the series. It's less than half the price of petrol and diesel and much better for the environment. So we've been campaigning for the government to commit to a long-term tax freeze on LPG and for at least a third of all petrol stations to sell LPG. But is running an LPG car more trouble than it's worth? We challenged free drivers to test free LPG cars for 2 weeks. First up is our London taxi driver, Dave Moss. Let's see how he got on.
Everyone asks me, how do I compare this to a diesel vehicle? The big difference is, in diesel it's 79p, in gas it's 39p. So you're roughly half price. And if you can't see the benefits of cutting your running costs in half, you just can't see it past the end of your nose, basically. I mean, at the moment we're limited to where we can fill up. We've only got about 10 sites throughout London and the M25. There's no problem filling it up. You know, you just connect the gas hose to the adapter that is built in to the back wing, clamp it up, and away you go. You keep your hand on the button. You can't overfill it. I'm not knocking diesel. I've just found a far better alternative.
So, Dave's converted. Next up, the Delanet family. We gave them the bi-fuel Vauxhall Vectra.
We live in mid-Wales. Public transport is virtually non-existent. To do a week's shopping, our nearest shopping town as such is 10 miles away. And as you can imagine, with the bus stop being 2 miles away, if you've got 8 bags of heavy grocery shopping, you can't actually use a bus.
The Delanet's only criticism, they lost some of their boot space.
We have to drive 15 miles to get the fuel, but that actually makes it worth our while doing because the fuel is that much cheaper. And so we can do a lot more miles for the same money. Petrol's been going up, and unfortunately our wages haven't been going up to match it.
Well, I personally never thought having a gas car in such a rural location would be very practical at all. The good news is I've been proved totally wrong.
Finally, there's Derek Freeman with a bi-fuel Ford Focus. Now, he was a bit worried about finding LPG at the pumps, but like the others, it wasn't a problem.
Tank full of petrol for £9.50.
But what if you do run out?
If you run low on gas and you can't find a station, it's just a button on the dashboard to press that switches you back to petrol. You don't even notice it switching over. The performance is the same.
So how much did our free testers save over a fortnight? The Delanets usually drive a Volvo 340. They save 67 quid in the bi-fuel Vectra. Derek Freeman has a Saab 9.5 estate. Using the bi-fuel Focus, he was 95 quid better off. Dave Moss used to fill his diesel tank every day, so he's made the biggest savings, a whopping 135 quid. But now for the big question. Most importantly now, will you convert?
Yes.
You
Given
will
the
do?
opportunity, yeah, I would.
So you'd spend the money on your old car, convert it, and go for it.
Yep.
Well done, excellent. Keys back, please. Reluctantly, I'll get them back. Right, on to Dave. Out of three as well, you're the only one who owns this vehicle. Now, you're not going to convert because you've already done it. Are you going to go back to diesel or are you going to stick with it?
No, I'll definitely stick with it. I couldn't go back to diesel.
Lovely. Top lad. Right, on to the Ford Focus with Derek and Mary. Would you convert?
Without a doubt.
Now can I have the keys back, please? Reluctantly. Got them. There you have it, 100% success for our free testers. So far, thousands of you have joined our campaign and offered your support, but to make a difference, we need thousands more to sign up. For full details of our campaign and info on how to convert your car, log on to our website at 4car.co.uk.
Right, it's time for our braking test. Now, none of our 3 cars come with anti-lock brakes as standard, and all of us on Driven believe that every car should be fitted with ABS. Now, Jason's going to drive down the course at 50 miles an hour, and he's going to slam on the brakes when he's alongside 2 cones, and we're going to measure the distance it takes each car to stop. And because we want to do this test fully laden, we've got to rope in an extra member of the team, Chris, our sound man.
So, first up, the Citroen Saxo. Now, this car hasn't got ABS, and what's more, it's not even an option.
And we reckon that's pretty poor.
Pretty poor. So, 50 mile an hour, if we lock up, we're going to have to come back off the brakes and reapply them again. So, we're at 50, here we go.
Get the edges out, Jason!
Oh, loads of skidding.
I'll tell you
But
what, though, it's not bad. Them
that-
cones ain't far away, are they?
That is 26 metres, so we'll have to see how that compares to the other two cars.
Next up, Hyundai Amica. Right, we're in the Hyundai Amica. We're going to get to 50 mile an hour and see what the brakes are like.
Now, ABS brakes are an option in here. They're £399.
Not a lot of money to save your life.
Here we go, 50 mile
On
an
the
hour.
end of Jason. Oh! Look at that. The sound man's headphones come clean off his head.
It's a beauty.
And it's not bad, actually. Where is it?
Do you know what?
Same
That's
as the other.
exactly the same distance as the Saxo, 26 metres.
Fantastic. Let's give the Lupo a try.
So, last but not least, the Volkswagen Lupo. Same deal, 50 mile an hour. See how good it goes.
Now, in here, we haven't got ABS brakes. Again, they're an option, but they're only £250 in the Lupo.
Fantastic. Look
Wow.
at that.
Tell you
How
what.
much shorter are we?
Really impressive.
That is brilliant. This is done 22.5 metres. That's 3.5 metres shorter than the other cars.
OK, so we know who the winner of this test is, and it's not the Saxo or the Amica. A photo finish for them on 26 metres, but the clear winner is the VW Lupo, stopping in 22.5 metres.
Now it's time for the Driven 100, where we're going to score our 3 little cars in 4 different categories. First up, it's drivability and the Citroen Saxo. To be honest, the chassis is quite good, it drives very well, but the driving position just destroys the car.
Yeah.
So what we're going to give it?
13.
Go on, we'll go with 13.
The nippiest of the 3, the Hyundai Amica, was let down by poor handling but did win the parking test. It gets 14. And the Lupo?
This certainly felt to me to be the best car. As soon as you get in, there's a little bit of quality there. It drives very well.
It gets 16. Next, desirability. First up, the Saxo.
I actually think this is a car for people that don't like cars.
I'm going to give it a 6. So, desirability with a Hyundai. They say prepare to want one. Prepare to do one, more like.
I had to drive this car home and look at the colour of
I
it.
think that's unfair. It's not that embarrassing.
It is
It
embarrassing.
serves its purpose. It's not a bad little car.
It scores 10. And the Lupo?
As soon as you slap that badge on the front, it becomes desirable. It's a Volkswagen.
13 points.
Got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, 13.
On to practicality and the Saxo.
It does have some practical features, this car. It's got wipeable seats, it's got great big door pockets, it's got the biggest boot of the 3.
Giving it 13. Next, the Amica.
Well, it's got a tiny little boot, but it has got 5
It's
doors.
got 5 doors, which
true.
makes an enormous difference with a little car.
It fares better with 16. And the little Lupo? Can I just say something about the boot? It's big enough for a travel umbrella and not much else.
It scores 13. Finally, cost of ownership and the Saxo.
We've got to think in realistic terms here. For somebody who hasn't got a lot of money to spend and they're going to buy a brand spanking new little jam jar, £6,000, they can jump into this.
Cheap to buy and run with a pound stretching cost per mile of only 20.4 pence, it scores a whopping 23. The Amica has a slightly higher figure of 26.4 pence per mile, giving it 22, and the Lupo with 25 pence per mile also scores 22.
So now for the scores on the doors.
The Saxo may appear to be a bargain, but proving that cheap isn't always cheerful, it comes third with a total of 55 points.
The Amica may come with all the kit, but let's face it, it's no looker. It scores 62.
It's got the label, it's got the looks, and it's got this week's highest score. The Lupo wins it with 64.
So it's been a walkover for the Volkswagen Lupo. It's a great car, but you do pay for the badge. And our tip to you would be to go for its cheaper brother, the Seat Arosa. We'll see you next week.
Next week on Driven, we're testing dream cars with realistic price tags. Yes, we'll be putting a second-hand Porsche, Ferrari and a Honda NSX through their paces.
And stop press, Porsche stuns the car world at the Paris Motor Show with its Carrera GT supercar. And this is its UK TV debut. There's only one in the world and you'll see more of it next week on Driven.